There is a question rarely asked outright, not because it lacks importance, but because it unsettles the inherited logic of civilization itself. Why did racism require the invention of white people? Not as pigmentation or ancestry, but as a product, a psychological, social, and political brand that could be packaged, sold, and globally distributed. Whiteness was not discovered, it was marketed. It was the most lucrative invention in modern human history, the psychological operating system of empire. In its design, white was never a biological fact. It was a membership model, a subscription of loyalty, protection, and belonging that promised elevation in exchange for complicity. Through the lens of interculture codes, whiteness appears not as mere ideology, but as infrastructure, built to stabilize asymmetry, justify extraction, and protect concentrated power from collapse. Raw domination cannot endure without disguise. When violence is visible, revolt follows. Exploitation requires moral camouflage. Whiteness became that disguise, a narrative of superiority that stabilized hierarchy and diffused accountability. It was sold as purity, but functioned as insulation. It promised safety while securing control. And like any successful product, it scaled. The genius of whiteness was its portability. It transcended borders, languages, and religions, embedding itself into nations as a default template for value, beauty, order, and progress. Its branding strategy was the racial hierarchy system, a coded ranking that turned human diversity into supply chains of worth. Those placed at the apex were promised proximity to perfection. Those at the bottom became global reservoirs of extraction, their labor, land, and bodies commodified to sustain the illusion above them. What eugenics intellectualized, global capitalism operationalized. From colonies to corporate boardrooms, from missionary schools to media empires, whiteness was marketed as civilization itself. It became the most consumed identity in history, not because everyone believed in it, but because survival demanded participation in its logic. Around the world, the map of whiteness still mirrors the map of extraction. The regions once branded inferior remain those most systematically drained, destabilized, and impoverished. The myth persists as economic reality. Those declared least human are the world's most harvested humans. Whiteness thus operated as a psychological currency, a promise of symbolic wealth that required neither land nor nobility to possess. Many bought into it for safety, for belonging, for identity. Yet this currency's true value was not what it offered, but what it extracted, the loyalty of billions in exchange for the stability of the few. Like all products, it depends on belief. It must be constantly re-advertised through stories of superiority, civility, and progress. Its shelf life depends on insecurity, on needing to feel higher, cleaner, more evolved than someone else. In this way, whiteness sustains itself not through truth, but through projection. It exports guilt and imports innocence. It turns inner fragmentation into global order. But there is an expiration hidden within the design. If whiteness is a product, then it can lose its market. If it feeds on fragmentation, then coherence, psychological wholeness, becomes its disruption. When a person or culture no longer needs superiority to feel secure, whiteness as a commodity loses its grip. The system that sold identity as salvation begins to collapse under the weight of its own illusion. The deeper emancipation lies beyond purchasing belonging. It lies in integrating what the product of whiteness denied: shared humanity, interdependent stability, wholeness without hierarchy. Because the most radical act of liberation is to step outside the market entirely, to refuse the sale of supremacy. For what is whole cannot be bought, and what needs to be sold was never truly real.